and we will get started. Great. So welcome everyone. So good to see you all. This is just, my favorite time of the year when it comes to the work of the Children and Youth Planning Table. It's such an honor and pleasure to spend some time with you, really digging more deeply into some of the areas of work that we're doing. I'm Barb Cardo, and I'm a co-chair of the Children and Youth Planning Table. Unfortunately, my partner co-chair, Goranka Vukalic, has had to step down from her role at the Children Youth Planning Table. So she's not able to be with us today. Just letting you know that in the meantime, the steering committee is working on appointing a temporary co-chair while we go through our process to find a new co-chair for the next 3-year assignment. So the theme this year of our forum is coming together in changing times. And oh my goodness, I couldn't think of a better theme for this year especially as I look around me at the things that are going on in our world. We are experiencing some increased hate and seeing that in our own community. We're seeing the impacts and experiencing the impacts of war in Gaza between Israel and Hamas. And we're seeing young children being exposed and killed in war in both Israel and Gaza. And it's such a difficult time, I think, for all of us. And so for some folks in our community, it's a very direct impact. We're also experiencing the leftover ramifications of the pandemic as we see the impacts of isolation on children and youth and their development and their well-being. But positively, what we are so aware of, and I'm so grateful to have the Children and Youth Planning Table for, is the incredible importance and power that comes with being connected with others, and the awareness of the impact that we can have together versus individually, and how incredible that force can be. And so just seeing all these folks here today come together is a real testament to that, I think. And so I welcome you. I hope you will enjoy your time. I hope you will be able to dig deeply along with all of us to dig into the topics that we are looking at, and continue to know that there is a very strong collective in our community and a strong connection with each other to do good and make a really positive difference in this world for our children and youth. Next slide, please. Or I guess it's not a slide because there is no slide. If you could show the slides, Monica, thank you, or Allison, or whomever's showing the slides. Thank you. Here's the forum slide. Ta-da! Although I'm glad that we had the screen open. So I would just like to acknowledge that the land that most of us are on today is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, Anishinaabe, and Chinongton people. If you are on different lands, please feel free to insert that into the chat. We acknowledge the enduring presence of the Indigenous people with whom we share the land today, their achievements and their contributions to our community. We offer this acknowledgement as an act of reconciliation between Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples of Canada. And what I'd like to just reflect upon as we enter into today, and many of you have heard me talk about this before, but I think one of the most profound impacts for me recently has been really studying the view of the child through Indigenous lenses. And one thing that is quite consistent across groups of Indigenous people is seeing the child as sacred. And that has taken me to a very deep place of, wow, if we see, and it resonates, if like to think of children as sacred, I think nobody would disagree that, yes, that is who our children are. They are sacred to us. And if we think about that, and if society thought about that, think about what kind of decisions would be made or not made, knowing that the children are sacred and need to be cared for and loved and nurtured. And imagine what a world this would be. So I'll just leave that with you as we enter into these conversations that we're about to have today. So as we move into our time together, please just a reminder to mute yourself if you haven't already. And if you could please, I think I need to do that, rename yourself with your name and your organization, if you have one, and tag us and share about your forum experience on social media. So today is a pick and choose experience. You are not required to stay for all of the sessions. You can come and go as you see fit and as your interests carry you. I love how the Backbone team has done this. It's the very same link for the whole session, so you don't have to go searching for the unique link for the session you're attending. And just please note that we have had to cancel our afternoon's equity design thinking session, as the content that is ready to share on this project is much better suited to email at this point. So anyone who was registered for that one will receive an email later this week, and we really do appreciate your understanding on this change, and hopefully you will enjoy the found time in your schedules. But stay tuned. The work continues to be important. We're just not quite at the point to be able to come together as a group to talk about it. And this brings us to our first session today, which is a real excitement for me, is about meaningful child engagement. Our journey together to build our capacity in meaningful youth engagement has now led to a new chapter, meaningful child engagement. And we're excited for you to hear today from Solami Okunlola as she shares an overview of her research into meaningful child engagement, both locally across Canada and beyond. Solami is in the role of the child engagement and systems lead on the Children and Youth Planning Table staff team. She combines passion and empathy to drive her engagement with children, youth, and their families. She has, in the last 18 years, worked in the not-for-profit education and management consulting sectors, and in 2021, she completed her PhD in counseling. Solami loves to provide a safe space for young people, thereby harnessing their potential in a way that brings about change and community transformation. She currently lives in Kitchener with her family, with whom she enjoys singing, playing, and watching movies. And that just sounds so wonderful. Over to you, Solami.
Monica, can you make Solami co-host?
I just did.
Thank you. Did you hear all I said so far?
No, you were on mute.
No.
I heard it in my heart, Solami. I heard it in my heart.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for registering for this session of the program. And I'm very happy to be here, and I consider it a great privilege. And I'm glad that it's the International Day for the Child, and we're getting to do this. So I'll just have you just say one thing about the child, like just one thing about the child. Anything at all that you want to say about children. It could be one word. They are lovely. They are intelligent. They are cute, precious, clever, awesome, pure. I like that. Energetic, innovative, resilient. They are the greatest teachers. Capable. I like that. Powerful, playful, handful, amusing. Thank you. I see capable again. They are the future. They are fresh. Thank you, Dan. All right. So on that note, I'll just begin because I know that the time is counting. Okay. Just give me a second to share my screen. Sorry there. Yeah. Can I have a thumbs up bar that you can see my screen? Excellent. Thank you. Okay. Great. All right. Just as you all know that this is about meaningful child engagement, the purpose of this presentation is basically to bring us to where we are at CYPT on this journey. And our journey so far has been that of learning much more than anything else, because as we want to delve into meaningful child engagement within the region, we just thought that at CYPT, where do we begin from? Where should we start all of this from? And what exactly is our motivation? Our motivation is Article 12 of the United Nations Act, let me say, that gives children the rights, or that emphasizes the right of children to be able to air their opinion and share their own views in a way that it's very important for us to take to take those views and be able to action what the children are asking for. So the same way that adults have their own opinions about things, adults want to be heard, youth want to be heard. Recently this year in May, we got data from the youth in the region through the Youth Impact Survey just to hear the youth. The question is, how about children 8 and below? Because the Youth Impact Survey is from ages 9 to 18. And so CYPT's motivation is this UN's position that is binding on all 193 member nations of the all member nations of the UN, including Canada. And in that light, we are on a journey to engaging children as well meaningfully within the region. And then we have had to ask ourselves, where exactly do we start from? Okay. And this question has led us to say, how can let's go to the literature and see what exactly has existed before now. And then let's also hear from some of our members on the field. I mean, those of you who are the experts. So during the summer, I got a chance to meet with some of the members of the CYPT. If I didn't get to you, sorry about that. It was just like a selection of people. And then I was trying to hear from them about a couple of things. But one of the things that I had the opportunity to ask those that I got in touch with was what their own meaning of child engagement is. And they did give me some very fantastic definitions. And you will find all of those things there in my presentation today. And so we put together this framework as we were inspired by the Center for Human Rights in University of Pretoria. They have this model, and we just picked a few things from there, and then of course put ours to it, like kind of put it in, contextualized it as the case may be. And this framework just kind of gives us at least somewhere to begin from, right? As we start from research, we are looking at, are we going to be able to come up with a framework for child engagement within our own region here? And then how do we build the capacity of our members to be able to meaningfully engage children, even as we look at that possibility of having a survey amongst children as well, 8 and below. And when I say survey, I'm not talking about a survey in the same way that the Youth Impact Survey held, but could we have something creative in their own developmental, putting their own developmental stage into perspective in designing a way of hearing the voices of children that are 8 and below as well. And when we are able to get into that empirical study or be able to get that data, then we can advance knowledge, and based on the things that we hear from the children, we can advocate for them meaningfully. So a lot of us work with children right now and we do things for them quite all right, but it is not everyone that engages with the children from what they have heard from the children, okay? But that is what we're hoping to see as we go forward. So where are we on this journey? It's just been the research aspect of the work. And we're hoping that with you today, we can move the work forward. And so in conducting this research, our goal was to establish what literature is saying about the definition of child engagement and what do people have to say about best practice for children engagement. What's from a global perspective now, what's the best practice for engaging children meaningfully? And the hope for this is to be able to situate how we as a collective want to engage children within our region. And so in this presentation today, I'm going to be sharing all of the definitions that maybe not all, but like a summary of the definitions that I was able to gather from over 50 articles. I mean, academic articles, and then also developmental articles. I mean, those who work in the development space, like the UN and some general bodies like the UN, those who are into the work of developing the society. That's what I mean by developmental studies, just to make it clear. And also I have that from a few members, all right? And then I'll just be sharing the principles of meaningful engagement, which is also another way of putting best practice information that I gathered. And then we'll look at the tools that we can use to creatively engage children, and then we will share reflections together. All right. So before I begin to share the academic part of this work, I just wanted to put out some things that I observed, that most of the articles that I found, they were very interested in, there were more articles in the early years work, I mean 0 to 6 context, and school engagement generally. So it was much more of child engagement within the school space that I found, I mean, with respect to the academic literature. And there were more articles talking about family engagement. And I think that's in the light of the fact that when you're talking about children, it's difficult to talk about children, especially children in the early years, without their families or without their parents. So there were more articles that emphasized children engagement in the light of family engagement. And there were also non-academic articles. Those are the kinds that I call the developmental ones. And I found them really, really rich in information as well. And the academic literature, a limitation that I found is the fact that they were more interested in the science of things than in the practical aspects of it. So the kind of things that those of us who do programming for children, those kind of things that we would be able to easily apply, you know, I didn't get so much of that from the literature, just very scanty. And I think that that might be a gap for those who are in academics to find a way to bridge that gap of helping those of us who are working within the community to be able to use the import of their research in the things that we do, if they make it, if they bring it down to our level, if you get what I'm saying. So I just wanted to put that out there so that the things I'll be sharing, you will look at it in that light as I share. So I'd like to go into the definitions now, and I'll just say, please bear with me because my definition slides are the longest of the time that I'll be spending here today, but I hope you find it interesting. Okay, I've been able to summarize the major points that I gathered from literature. So people have said that child engagement has to do with children's capacity to interact, and that interaction is within a time, within a period of time that they spend in their physical, social, or various learning contexts, as the case may be. Another person has said that it is an interaction with instructions and instructional materials. You would see that that still has some level of the school setting there. Okay, and interacting with children at that level should be based on age, or is based on age if you're going to call it child engagement, and it is based on the children's abilities. Okay, child engagement is also the way children participate in academic or non-academic tasks. And I'm quoting just one of these authors that says that we have to look at child engagement with the lens of activities or interaction that is developmentally appropriate, across various contexts. And you see that this kind of summarizes the things that I shared in the previous slide. Okay, child engagement is also a direct pathway to learning. And I like the use of an author's words, which says it's the quality of children's involvement. So it's not just about children being able to interact, it's about the quality of that interaction and what it does to the children. Okay, child engagement is also the specific behavior or emotions and thoughts of the child. When you engage with children, you're engaging their emotions, their thoughts, and their behavior. Okay, another set of authors talked about child engagement being a subdomain of participation. And then I began to reflect and ask myself, is child engagement different from, or is engagement different from participation? And that really got me curious and made me to search more. And I like what this particular author in bold font has said, to say that child engagement is actually interrelated. You don't talk about child engagement without the child being able to participate in something. So for us to foster participation in children, we would need to meaningfully engage them. So if you search the literature, you can find some people saying child participation. You can find some saying child engagement. Even though in the dictionary, they are not exactly the same meaning, but you will see that one can provide weight for the other. Okay, so that's from the academic lens, and now I'm going to the developmental literature, like the likes of the United Nations. Okay, so UN says that child engagement is the way we enable children to participate in opportunities to form and express their opinions. So you could see that shift from the academic literature to the lens in which UN is looking at things. And then Center for Human Rights, University of Pretoria, says that it is providing children with the information that they need and that opportunity to express their views and influence decision-making at various levels in matters that concern them. I don't know if this is further like driving home the point and trying to, it's like it's coming home, right, to the kind of things that we desire and the journey that we are on right now as a collective in finding out what meaningful engagement with children is going to look like as we move the work forward. And then from CYPT members, let me just give a shout out to all of those that I listened to throughout the summer and a bit into the start of the fall. Thank you for making this a very robust work for us. And so because of my sentiment, I'm just going to look at what this 6 points say. Engendering a sense of belonging in children, building one-on-one relationships with kids in a way that leads to happy, healthy children, family, and staff. involvement with kids in a way that makes them always enthusiastic to participate in programming. Somebody said something that makes children want to come back. That is meaningful child engagement. It makes sense. Keeping families in the loop on child well-being. And that's to say this person is looking at child engagement from the lens of the family. Helping children and families increase literacy with joy and a sense of community. You can say that upfront that this is coming from a school environment. Meeting children where they are at. Very fantastic definitions there. If you look at all of these definitions that we have listened to from those three blocks, you would see that the meaning of child engagement is not it's diverse, as it were. And so the question then would be, what is it for you as an individual, even as you reflect on this presentation? And then I thought everybody seems to be using different words and everybody seems to be saying some persons are similar in their orientation of child engagement. Some persons took it to other dimensions. And I just thought that it is okay. Whatever angle that you're coming from is probably the lens from which you are working with children, the lens from which you are advancing the work or contributing to the work. So if you look at the likes of UN, and of course in CYPT, we leverage the works of UNICEF Canada because of that big work that they are already into. And so that's a big body that we don't want to gloss over what they have to say, because we know that their work is based on research and they have that status of doing something very meaningful over the years, like we can trust them. Okay. And if you look at the lens from which they are coming, they're talking about the fact that it's being able to hear the opinion of children and being able to bring them on, giving them that opportunity to participate in things that concern them. So looking at all of these three big blocks, where do we want to situate child engagement for us? And I thought that all of these different meanings, they are okay. And as I did this research, I found this study by Ritosa and other authors who were also on this journey trying to find out the meaning of child engagement. And I found it really interesting because this study is very recent, published September 2023. And as I read this article, I realized that they were saying just what I felt. The kind of observations, as I looked at those over 40 articles, I saw the same kind of trends. I couldn't really see people who were nipping in the bud what child engagement is. And what these authors found out is that, okay, so what they did was that they did what academics would call a systematic review of literature, where they tried to go through about 5,965 articles. And out of these articles, they were only able to make sense of child engagement from about 286 of them. And out of these 286, only two-thirds of the studies, almost two-thirds of the studies lacked an explicit definition of child engagement. And that's why I said it's okay if you find from our members, you could see that there was that diverse view of child engagement, and from the literature and from the developmental studies as well. And so it's really okay. But what the challenge that we will be throwing to you today is to reflect on what would child engagement be for us as a meaning, as a collective. And so I tried to make an attempt based on all of my learnings over this period and my own personal engagement experience to try to come up with a definition for child engagement. And I say that it is that interaction that you have with a child that enables that child to use their competence, capability, and curiosity in a way that can contribute meaningfully to the community. Community here, I'm talking about whether in the classroom community or within the family where the child comes from, or within an organization, during programming, or even within our neighborhood as a community, as a municipality. It is any form of interaction that we're having with the kids that enables them use what they have got. And I came up with this as I looked at who a child is. What does a child have? And I'm grateful that in the course of the, as I started and you were giving me words to say something about the child, I saw a few folks put in that word capable. So if they are capable, then we can actually, from the children, advance a work on child engagement. I'll just move on faster now. Okay, so what does the literature have to say about best practice for child engagement? There are 4 key stages that we need to take note of: the planning stage, the delivery stage, at the evaluation stage, and even that stage when we begin to action what the children, action the things that we gather from the children in terms of data. Children need to be involved. Oftentimes, we might have prepared the questions and what we want to find out from the children, and then it's at the stage of getting data from them that we think now it's time to involve them. But best practice is, even from the planning and putting together the question, let's involve children all the way. Also, if we're going to meaningfully engage children, we need to prioritize safety and security and well-being. Engaging children, we need to be transparent and informative. In that wise, I'm talking about no form of tokenism. The kids need to know why they are being engaged and how they are going to be engaged and what their contributions will be used for. It needs to be voluntary to participate, and the children should have a choice to opt out or not even participate at all. And it should be relevant today. It should be inclusive. And in this sense, we should consider demography, geography. We should consider their cultural perspectives or their cultural backgrounds, as the case may be. And for us to do this, the adults that are going to be involved in this should be trained. And as we consider getting into a work like this, best practice will require us to think about time. What exactly is the best time to do this? When would be the best time to approach this kind of work? Now, we think children will be ready for this, and what kind of resources would we need? Asking ourselves that question of rightness of timing and how we want to go about it is important. Leveraging parents in this work, if it is going to be about children 8 and below, then there is a major family or parental allyship that we need to consider, and how we're going to do that in a way that it is actually the children's voices we're hearing and not the parents, but we are having the support of the parents on that journey. And if it's going to be about kids, then it's going to be in play forms, in ways that they can share their curiosity and their imagination. Okay, so the tools that we can use for that, if we're going to be able to really get children's voices, is to use things that children love to do, things that really bring out who they are and where they can express themselves, like this list that I have on the screen. The thing about the visual arts category of the tools that we can use is the fact that children that have verbal communication problems will also be able to express themselves. Remember, we're looking at inclusivity as a lens to consider also. Others will be using role play storytelling, and we can use surveys as well for children who are able to write, and focus group discussions, music, anything that can help to bring out the voices of children. In my personal reflection, as I gradually come to the end of this, I believe that for us to say we want to meaningfully engage children, then our purpose needs to be clear. Why do we want to do it? If we don't have a why, we might not be able to go far. Okay? And so family allyship, like I said before, is almost mandatory, especially for children within 0 to 6. And training people to do this is really important, and we might need to prioritize it. There is need to create awareness on best practice. So people engage children. We want to engage children. We want to do it better. We should do it in a way that is globally recognized as best practice. So I come back to my slide that I shared at the beginning on the framework, the journey. So this is just on this journey, the points we are at, that we've been at in the last 5 months at CYPT, is this research part of it. But the point we want to take it to now is that part that involves you. And I would just invite you to reflect on these things, which we are going to do in our various breakout rooms. I'm soon going to hand over to Barb or Alison that would tell us how we're going to go about that. But what we're inviting you to do this morning is to join the conversation. What do you think about all of these meanings that have been shared? And how do you feel about CYPT wanting to go into this work of child engagement? How do you think we should move this work forward? Do you feel excited about what you have heard so far, or what you think it's going to look like? Or do you have some concerns? We want to hear everything at this point, because we are still at the, formative years of this work, and we need your voices, because this work is a collective work. And then if you think about capacity building for yourself or for your organization with respect to this work, what is that going to look like? So I'm going to stop sharing my screen now, and I'm going to hand over to Barb.
Thank you so much, Solami, for